to make their way up.
I mean, who do you think is the best stack? And is there a consensus second or third best? I mean, when you're looking at the roster and the lineups and the matchups this week, is there an obvious best stack at the very least? Is there an obvious second or third best? To me, I look at it and I'm not so sure that I can easily say, oh, absolutely that's the second best. Absolutely that's the third best. It seems like there's a lot of comparable options.
Yeah, there certainly isn't any game or, team that you need to build around. Some of it comes down to ownership, right? And so we'll have a better handle on that as we get closer towards Sunday. The leverage spots are going to be really important to me. I mean, is Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins good? Well, the prices come down, but are they going to be 12% owned? Then I'm not on it. If they're going to be 2% owned, I'm going to be, significantly above the field. And so I think always keeping the context in mind for stuff is important in terms of what might stand out relative to the field. Because, look, daily fantasy is not just about scoring points, right? There's no threshold of, you need to get 175 and you win. It's all a competition against other lineups. And so we do need to be, very attuned to how other people are approaching things.
Plus, I think one of the stories that doesn't get a lot of talk in the NFL, and I've been saying this for a couple of years now, is it's never been easier to be mediocre at quarterback, to be viable, but there's so few that are actually all that good. And so I look at this, and I find it hard to look at the line and say, well, those guys are playing fantastic. Justin Herbert played on Thursday night. He's been really good. He had some rough games the last couple weeks. Obviously, against the Patriots, they were a disaster. But for the most part, he had a pretty good stretch there. Mahomes is a beast, but you have to pay up for that. But I'm looking at the quarterback position, and I don't say, you know what, that team is just a horse. I love the team. I love those players. I have to have shares of it. When I look across the NFL, I find some running backs that I think are awesome, that I get really excited about. Tyreek Hill, it's hard not to think that he's just a complete and total monster. Devontae Adams isn't on the slate this week, but he's another one of those where you can't go wrong rostering him. But I find it very difficult to find quarterbacks that meet that criteria. And in order to get really excited about stacks, I think I need to be really excited about quarterbacks. And I'm just not. I'm excited about some players' futures, but I'm not excited about them having monster games now. There's just so much mediocrity at the position. I every single week I feel less and less excited and enamored by the quarterback play and therefore the stacks.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's a function of, hey, we're late in the salary and the pricing's gotten pretty good. Because, look, right, like Mahomes is a beast. Nobody's going to tell you otherwise. But Mahomes, Tyreek, Kelsey is ridiculously prohibitive to plug in. Or, Russell Wilson isn't in a great matchup. Deshaun Watson's lost his wide receiver, stuff like that. So I do think that's also why I think Lamar Jackson, right, is just another guy where, hey, we have him in a great spot. He can run for 80 and 2 touchdowns. And, that type of day can also separate him well above the field, because this might not be a slate where we see 5 quarterbacks post 30 plus DraftKings points. It could easily be just a couple or something of that nature. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Just to finish that point, I think one of the reasons why you like Lamar Jackson so much is his supporting cast gets you off the hook. That's kind of what you said, which was you can love Patrick Mahomes, who's only 400 more than Jackson. But the problem with Mahomes is you feel like you have to have Hill, or you have to have Kelsey, or you have to have one of those or both of those or one of those with someone else. And that handcuffs you so you can't put together the roster you want to put. Whereas Lamar Jackson, it doesn't, because all of his contributing players are affordable or even cheap, or you can go naked with him because he runs so well. That's kind of a weird way to look at it and a weird way to theorize about it. But to say that I like Jackson but don't like Mahomes, you're really saying it's because what rostering Mahomes forces me to do, I can't do or I don't want to do because it hurts the rest of my team. Whereas Jackson at a comparable price, even though he's a significantly lesser talent, all of a sudden he becomes intriguing because you can get Hollywood Brown, for almost nothing, or you can go with Dobbins, who's very affordable. I mean, that's kind of a weird way to put together a roster, but I kind of think that's what you're saying, and that to me is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I do want to note Hollywood Brown was a close contact and is now on the COVID list, so unclear if he's going to play. But yeah, someone like him, right? I mean, you could grab the other wide receivers in there and Mark Andrews as well, guys that you can tie together. And I mean, when we like other, individual plays like Ayuk or Derrick Henry or whoever it may be, and they're totally separate, from other players, then that's when you have a little bit more of an opportunity to have a quarterback who isn't quite as correlated or tied to his guy. So that is why I am especially inclined to give some of those guys a go this week. That will wrap things up, though. Thank you guys very much for tuning in, as always. You can find all our content on fantasydata.com. Chris's Twitter is at CJMitch73. Mine is at Peter Jaguars. Feel free to reach out with any questions, thoughts, feedback, takes on life, experiences playing snow football, whatever you have. Would love to hear from you. And we'll wrap things up here. Make sure to check out our NFL Optimizer and the DFS stacking tool as well on the site. Have a good one. Best of luck during the games. And for Chris, I'm Peter Goffin. Peace out.